£20 billion. The LBC Markets report, the FTSE 100 has closed down 19 points at 74.46. The pound buys $1.29 and €1.18. LBC weather, windy, chilly and more blustery showers tonight. Rain, hail and snow as well as icy patches for northern and western parts, a low of 1 degree. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Holly Jones.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Tomorrow, Boris Johnson will pave the way for the biggest infrastructure revolution since the Victorians. Yes, we're expecting tomorrow the green light to be given to HS2, at least from London to Crewe, with perhaps some further thoughts on the next phase. But there's another big announcement we're expecting tomorrow. And just before I came on air, I spoke to the political editor of The Sun, Tom Newton-Dunn, who tweeted out earlier that Number 10 confirms for the first time that work is underway on the building of a bridge between Scotland and Northern Ireland. And I began by suggesting that Boris, who, remember, tried to get the Garden Bridge across the Thames off the ground at a cost of $50 million, I suggested to Tom Newton-Dunn that Boris does like building things.
Yes, he does rather. Boris rather likes building things. This one is going to be from Scotland to Northern Ireland at the most narrow point, which is a mere 20 miles of reasonably inhospitable Irish Sea.
I mean, I, in 20 years as an MEP, did not receive, and party leader for over 10 years of UKIP and the Brexit Party, I didn't receive a single letter demanding a bridge that went from Scotland to Northern Ireland. What is the motivation for this?
Well, multifold, I think. Boris Johnson is a politician that likes physical things. This much we know. He likes to create things, whether it's London buses or bridges or airports. Now, this may be a nice thing that can bear his name, and he can show voters and fans, or it may be a connectivity thing, the positivity of growing the country and doing interesting things.
And this on the day when Sinn Féin win the popular vote in the Republic of Ireland, which the timing of which many will comment on. Tom, you as a newspaper backed Boris Johnson's campaign of a general election. You were pushing hard for voters in the old Red Wall to vote Conservative, which they did. I mean, how does, and because we're expecting an HS2 judgment as well, how does HS2... 106 billion. How does this bridge, at least 20 billion, and that's just for starters, how does that help all these people who voted Conservative for the first time?
Well, I think that's a very good point. So what Number 10 said this morning, it slightly slipped out, actually, a little bit of embarrassed confirmation of stories in Sunday newspapers that the Prime Minister had actually commissioned official study into this. I think we're all now waiting, as indeed, so Number 10 says, the Prime Minister, for a feasibility study. Is this thing going to work? Is it going to generate more money for the economies of all our nations run sap out of taxpayers' pockets? And is it even really doable? Because it must also be said there's something like 1 million tonnes of unexploded ordnance in that particular part of the Irish Sea, which is no small obstacle to try and navigate around. So look, I think I've got a reasonable open mind to this. If it can be proved to be a great impact, a great boost to the economy, then why not? There is, of course, the great British state's record in building stuff, which is absolutely appalling. You look at how long it's taken to get HS2 off the ground, some 20 years in discussion. Finally, we're going to hear from the Prime Minister tomorrow that it is indeed going to get yet another... And we're going to have to wait another 10, 20 years for the thing to be built. So there is a massive difference, I completely agree, in having these ideas and actually getting them off the ground. But, in my view, there's nothing particularly wrong with at least dreaming big.
Well, I would have thought, Tom, that a bigger priority was to get people from Hull to Liverpool, and these two, I mean, which you literally can't do. It's a nightmare. I know as somebody that's traversed the country, and I just wonder whether a lot of these people who voted for Boris when he promised them infrastructure changes will look at this and say, it's no use to me, Gov.
I'm sure they will, and that's the problem with Hull to Liverpool or finishing the widening the carriageway of your local A road. None of those is particularly bright and shiny. They don't catch national headlines. In fact, the voters will probably say, well, why have you taken 5 years to do that when I wanted it done yesterday? There really aren't that many votes in doing what people think you should have done a while ago. There might be votes, or so Boris might think, in a big new shiny project, which you could even give your own name to, couldn't you? The Johnson Bridge. So a lot of this is about political selling. But let's wait and see, I think, for all the numbers to add up. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's probably only 1 or 2 million quid wasted in terms of getting some officials to do some calculations.
And finally, Tom, HS2, we're expecting a yes, I'm told, tomorrow.
Yeah, we're expecting a 3/4 of a yes. We're expecting a full speed ahead, please, from London to Birmingham and then Birmingham up to Crewe, which is one long side of the Y. The second bit of the Y, which is from Manchester up to Leeds, we expect will be paused yet further, probably for some years, as basically they try and make this thing a bit cheaper. But the net outcome is the thing happens, but probably yet again with another delay on top of it.
So there we are. Tomorrow we will hear about the biggest infrastructure revolution since the Victorians. This from the man who went for the Garden Bridge that was never completed and cost £50 million. This from the man who built the cable car in the East End of London, the one that he famously got stuck on because he lied about his weight, and that very few people use. And now, from a government elected to say they would do what they could for infrastructure, not only will, I think, the disastrous HS2 project go ahead. Remember that one? 32 billion, then went to 56 billion, then went to 88 billion, now it's on 106 billion and rising. A bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland. Quite who for, I've no idea. Probably mainly for tourists, although this week, looking at the forecast, it wouldn't be open on any day but Thursday, because when the wind's over 40 miles an hour, you will not be allowed to use it. I think the whole thing is absolutely mad. I think the infrastructure that people need, we need more roads, not smart motorways that are going to kill people. We need to be able to get from east to west across the country, which, and I mentioned in the interview there with Tom Newton-Dunn, Hull to Liverpool. It's one of many examples. I think this is a huge mistake, and I think this bridge, 20 billion. I wonder what it'll be by the time it finishes. 40, 60, 80, I've no idea. But these projects always become massively over time, massively over budget. So I'm asking you, has Boris got this right? I don't think he has. Tell me what you think. 0345 6060 973. Jonathan says already, after 10 years of austerity during which millions endured poverty and deprivation, we're suddenly looking at spending billions on extravagant and unnecessary projects. And Jonathan, I'm not against money being spent. I mean, look, I've said it before, I say it again. The mobile phone doesn't work on huge sections of the M1. It's unbelievable. I mean, you get better mobile phone connectivity in poor African countries than you get driving up through the East Midlands. That matters. A lot of people, not connected to broadband. I think that matters, especially for people setting up their own businesses or, young entrepreneurs. That really matters. Getting east-west across the north of England, that matters. A railway line that gets us to Penzance in less than 5 hours, and it was quicker than that in 1914, that matters. I do not think a bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland, it may be seen symbolically as joining together the United Kingdom at a time when it's under strain and when Mary Lou MacDonald, who's led Sinn Féin to a dramatic victory, she's come first in the popular vote in the Republic of Ireland, it may be seen as that, but economically, I don't buy it, and I've never, ever bought HS2. I think he's got it wrong, but hey, I've said my bit, over to you. And I'm going to go to Northern Ireland. What better place could I start? Alan from Ballycastle in Northern Ireland. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Nigel. Pleasure to talk to you as always.
Pleasure to talk to you. Now, Alan, we've spoken before on many subjects, but never on this one. Do you think a bridge, which will start at Stranraer or somewhere about there, going 20 miles across to Northern Ireland, do you believe that brings economic benefit?
Well, that's what there'll have to be a deep looking into. I always think of the Orison Bridge that was built. Of course, it's, as well as being a bridge, there's a tunnel part of it as well that was built to link Denmark and Sweden. Before the bridge started construction, both governments sat down and looked to see what the possible economic benefits of it were. And they concluded that it was worth spending the 35 billion or so to construct it. And apparently, since the Orison Bridge is being constructed, the economic benefits have been even greater.
Alan, you've got me on loudspeaker. Can you pick up the handset?
No, Sorry, I'm actually in that small room here. Is that better?
That's better, yeah.
Right, sorry.
So you're open-minded then. If a government study says it'll bring economic benefit, it might be worth doing, yeah?
Yeah, as well as that, a very, very important economic benefit, if the work was to go ahead, would be to prioritise giving the work to British companies.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Plenty of engineering companies in the north of England would greatly benefit from such work. Engineering companies in Northern Ireland as well, of course, would benefit from the work. On top of that, as well as building a bridge, road improvements would be necessary because the A75 that would link the bridge to the mainland motorway network at Gretna. I mean, that's an awful road.
I'll tell you what, Alan. If Northern Ireland's potential share of this project is £10 billion, rather than waiting for a bridge that won't be finished for 15 years or more, just think what £10 billion could do for the Northern Irish economy in the next 3 years.
Yeah, but what could the bridge... Again, you see, I'm going back to my first point, Nigel. Look at what the potential economic benefits of a bridge are for both Northern Ireland and, of course, Scotland.
I don't buy it.
Of course, what potential benefits would it also have for the Republic of Ireland? Because if there's going to be a potential benefit to the Republic of Ireland, then it would only be fair to ask the Republic of Ireland government to chip money into it. On top of that, I think another thing about it is... talking about using government money, well, the Channel Tunnel was built with mainly private money.
Yes, it was.
So would it not be a good idea to get the private sector involved in it to put up a lot of the dosh?
Not a penny of private money went for HS2, and I very much doubt a penny of private money will come for a bridge over 20 miles of stormy water in a sea that is full of unexploded ordnance from 2 world wars in a very windy part of the world. I doubt it. Alan, thank you for your optimism. I don't share it. Mark is calling from the Wirral. Mark, good evening.
Hello, Nigel. I think Boris is absolutely nuts. He said in the past about something else, a very rude word about money up a wall. Well, he's doing that with this. I'm in the north, okay? I'm a member of the Tory party, but I know many who have lent Boris their votes in the north of England. We want a train line which goes across the Pennines at more than 50 miles an hour.
Yes.
That absolutely. Otherwise, next time, the best he can hope for is a hung parliament. As I say, he is whatever, money up the wall. You've got to look at Northern Ireland in realism. With Sinn Féin winning yesterday, in reality, we're probably looking at Northern Ireland leaving the Union within the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, we don't know
Scotland
that.
Scotland could do the same. Well, let's be real, Nigel. They could. Scotland the same. You know, it's a very real possibility.
Well, maybe the counter-argument, Mark, is by doing this, they're more likely to stay part of the Union.
I doubt that, and you know that Northern Ireland is more complicated than that.
I was just playing devil's advocate, Mark. But
in reality, Boris needs to honour the votes that have been lent in the north of England.
I couldn't agree, Mark. That is the key point to this. That is what they seem to be missing, Mark. I thank you. Whether it's putting a mansion tax on houses in Surrey, whether it's building a bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland, what about those northern voters? This doesn't even touch them. You listen to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 16 minutes past 6, and time for the news headlines with Holly Jones.
It's now known 2 healthcare workers are among 4 new cases of the coronavirus diagnosed in the UK. The government has released emergency funds to help the more than 500 properties flooded as a result of Storm Kira over the weekend. Campaigners trying to halt the deportation of 50 people to Jamaica tomorrow have lost their case at the High Court. LBC weather, windy, chilly and more blustery showers tonight. Rain, hail and snow for more northern and western parts, a low of 1 degree.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. It stop-starts on the M11 southbound. 2 lanes are blocked because a car's on fire at junction 7 for Harlow. There are queues on the M25 anti-clockwise from junction 21 for the M1 to junction 20 for Kings Langley after an accident earlier on. All the lanes are open now. There are queues in Southall on the Broadway in both directions. That's after there was an unsafe building earlier on. On the North Circular Road eastbound, there are queues from Palmer's Green to Chingford after an accident earlier. Because of a tree on the line, Greater Anglia are running a reduced service between Liverpool Street and Harlow Town. It means the Stansted Express is also severely disrupted. And South Eastern, they're running a revised service between Victoria and Bromley South.
This is LBC.
Where are we?
The New Forest.
But I thought we only had the Mini Countryman booked for a test drive. We can't stay here.
We're not going to.
This isn't exactly what I meant.
Relax. With Mini's new 48-hour test drive, you can use the Countryman for exactly what it's built for. Exploring. Plus, it's an SUV, the largest Mini in the range, so you can pack loads more in.
Great. Where next?
Well, you know how you've always wanted to try kayaking?
The Mini Countryman 48-hour test drive. Visit mini.co.uk to book yours. Mini. Who's in? Test drive subject to status and availability. Terms and conditions apply. Participating Mini retailers only.
This is LBC.
How do you make the most understated Range Rover even more striking? Paint it Santorini black. Fit it with privacy glass. A full leather ebony interior. Then place it on 21-inch gloss black alloy wheels. The Range Rover Velar R Dynamic Black. Understated has rarely been so bold. Limited numbers available for a limited price. Search Range Rover Velar. Land Rover. Above and beyond.
Limited availability while stocks last at participating UK Land Rover retailers. Check with your local retailer.
I pledge
to leave a gift in my will.
Cancer Research UK.
To live a fuller life.
To save more lives like my mum's.
Gifts in wills fund over a third of Cancer Research UK's life-saving research.
I pledge to continue researching.
To find new treatments for patients.
To stop cancer from coming back.
Pledge right now to leave a gift in your will to Cancer Research UK, and together we will beat cancer for future generations. To find out more, search Cancer Research UK. Pledge.
When did the word free stop meaning free? Buy one, get one free. Wait 6 months and then it's free. How about something a little more clear? When you buy car or home insurance, you can choose a free gift with Confused.com rewards, like Green Flag Breakdown cover, a £20 Domino's or Halfords voucher, or a Now TV pass. Don't be confused. Be Confused.com. Available on single annual policies. Now TV 18+. Full T's and C's online.
At Wix, we'll create your dream kitchen from design to show-off ready and take care of everything. And now, save a third on showroom kitchen units. Book your free design appointment today. Cure your house embarrassment with Wix. For minimum spend, terms and exclusions, see wix.co.uk.
Let's get this right, sir. You didn't see 3 men dressed as clowns take off in a van with a Renaissance painting because you were distracted by, and I quote, a sporty red compact SUV with a bold mesh grille, a sculpted bonnet with sweeping roofline on diamond cut alloys.
And beautiful rear haunches.
So, you saw a Jaguar E-Pace. But what about the clowns?
What clowns?
Jaguar E-Pace, designed to steal attention. Search Jaguar E-Pace.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Tomorrow, Boris Johnson will unveil the biggest infrastructure revolution since the Victorians. It includes, of course, our old friend HS2 and now a bridge. A 20-mile bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland, and the starting price on that one is 20 billion sterling. Also, free ports will be announced, but they're not really infrastructure. They're just actually a very good idea that I've pushed for quite a long time. But a big row in Parliament today. The government being accused of letting down the Windrush generation because we're about to deport 50 people convicted of serious crimes to Jamaica. But Labour MP David Lammy, he, in the House of Commons this afternoon, had some pretty strong views.
This government holds in such disrespect the contribution of West Indian, Caribbean and black people in this country. When will Black Lives Matter once again?
I find it a bit odd that David Lammy is praising people who don't have British nationality and have committed serious crime. It's as if he's holding them up as exemplars of the black community. Surely, Mr. Lammy, you should be making the opposite point. I'm really, really confused by it. Anyway, the plane is due to leave tomorrow. There are 50 people on board. Many of them did come to the UK as children, but they haven't got British nationality, and they have committed, in many cases, very, very serious crimes. And Home Office Minister Kevin Foster said it's part of a long-standing policy to deport convicted criminals.
The foreign national offenders on the flight have been sentenced to a total of 300 years in prison. Everything from sex offending, serious drug trafficking offences, violent offences, firearms offences.
Why on earth would we want those people to stay in the United Kingdom? And why, David Lammy, do you think somehow they represent the black community? I would have thought the opposite should apply. I have to say, this has got nothing to do with Windrush, where clearly some errors were made. I have no problem with the government doing this whatsoever. Back to Boris and big infrastructure projects, or do you think they're vanity projects? Boris wants a bridge in an area subject to violent storms. That makes a great deal of sense. Not expensive cycle routes, bridges and HS2, what next? I do apologise, H. I didn't mention his cycle routes in London, which, during the middle of the day, see extraordinary traffic queuing over Blackfriars Bridge and not a single bicycle on them. I'm not sure Boris is very good at infrastructure. Perhaps I am wrong. Any chance of filling in the potholes before we consider building a bridge, says Laura in Shenfield, a point with which many will agree. Apparently the trains won't go fast enough to get value for money. I think we should spend the money on a VAT cut to get the economy going. Ollie, there are lots of ways of getting the economy going. I don't think long-term infrastructure projects are they, particularly if we were to award the contracts and much of the work to foreign workers and foreign companies. That would not make sense to me. Lindy says Scotland and Northern Ireland are Remainers. Can you see he's trying to appease them? Well, Lindy, it is possible that part of the thinking of this bridge, it's a big symbol of the United Kingdom being together. It's a reach out to the two parts of the UK that did vote to remain. I don't know, but I rather doubt it. John says, why on earth do you want to build it when Nicola Sturgeon wants separation? Andrea says, if this road gets built, what will happen to the ferry operators? They will all go out of business. And when they're out of business, on the days when it's windy, you see, and the bridge can't be used, and that stretch of the Irish Sea is so, because I know the Isle of Man a bit, and it's subject to really strong winds, then, Andrea, nothing will move at all. So I just don't get it. Let's go to Fife and speak to Charlie. Charlie, good evening.
Hi there, Nigel.
Hello there. So, is this bridge going to be great news for Scotland?
Well, I mean, is it even possible to build a bridge over that stretch of sea? It's going to be very deep.
It's very deep. It's not quite as tidal as it is from Dover to Calais, but it's still got considerable tides, appalling weather, and we're told, Charlie, vast amounts of unexploded ordnance from 2 world wars.
Well, there you go then, I mean, to be honest with you, I think this is part of this £5 million campaign that he's on trying to love bomb Scotland. I think that got announced a few weeks back. This is like stage 1 of it. I don't think that's ever going to happen. What Scotland needs? Scotland doesn't need a bridge between Northern Ireland. We're already connected with Northern Ireland with our Celtic history. What we want in Scotland is a Section 30 order, and the sooner we get that Section 30 order... Explain that
to people, Charlie.
Yep, a Section 30 order is a legal requirement that for Scotland to have the right, Scottish Parliament to have the right to hold independence referendum. It's not totally legal not having one, a Section 30 order, as we may find out.
So you're desperate to have a...
may go through the courts.
So you're desperate, Charlie, to have a referendum on separation, yeah?
As far as I'm concerned up here, Scotland's well aware of how the EU has been good for us. Migration has been good for Scotland. We rely on migration massively.
It's been great for your fisheries, isn't it? It's been really good for Scottish fisheries.
Well, it's not been great for our fisheries, but it wasn't Scotland that sold out the fishermen. It was Westminster back in the day.
And how would you get it back?
Right, so the thing is, Nigel, right, when it comes to fisheries, we heard on the Andrew Neil show the other week there when he was talking to the Tory MP for Aberdeen, 0.04% of
Charlie, you can write off the Scottish coastal communities if you want. All I would say to you is that if you want to leave the United Kingdom and become a province of the United States of Europe, good luck to you, but it's a slightly separate question. John is new to this show and calling from Omagh in Northern Ireland. John, are you looking forward to this bridge?
Hello, Nigel. Very nice to talk to you. No, I think it's a pipe dream. You're talking to a man here who has incredible links with Scotland, and I'm a strong unionist. I must say that at the outset.
Yep.
For the best part of 10 years, and I still travel on the ferry from Belfast to Cairnryan, bottom left-hand corner of Scotland for those that are geographically challenged. Use it all the time. I have family there. So I'm across. I used to work there. Went across on the Monday morning, back on the Friday, over the weekend. There's no cry from Northern Ireland, believe me, for a bridge to Scotland. I mean, we've got ferry routes. And I just, I don't know where Boris is coming from on this. It's not the Irish Sea, by the way, it's the North Channel, and if you have a look at it, you did say it was windy. It certainly is that, but you've got the whole Atlantic coming in, and if you look at that stretch of water, it's not just windy. You've got the whole Atlantic coming in there tidally, narrowing down to 12 miles and then down to 20 miles over the North Channel. It's nuts. Boris in reality, there's a phrase may not ever go.
He seems to like fantasy bridges and fantasy projects, John.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's nuts. I agree with you. Thank you. Mike is new to the show from Chorley in Lancashire. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Nigel. I think you're missing the point, Nigel.
Okay.
What is happening with all this infrastructure projects is Boris is actually saying to the EU, this country has a very strong economy and can afford to spend money on all these projects. That's the message he's sending to them loud and clear.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike.
Whereas their economies are in crisis.
Yes, they are. I'll tell you what, Mike. OK, let's agree that big spending on infrastructure shows self-confidence, shows an independent Britain, says to the EU, hey, we're doing just great when you're not. Fine, I get that. So why not then, Mike, spend it on projects that people actually want and need?
Because the EU, if you said you're building a road from A to B, won't take any notice. But if you come up with a project that's going to cost 20 billion or more, and such as the HS2 or this bridge, it makes their ears prick up.
I'll tell you what makes their ears prick up, Mike. When we say HS2 will cost 32 billion and now it costs 106 billion, their ears aren't pricking up, they're laughing their socks off at us.
Yeah, but not if we still spend it.
No, Mike, don't buy that one little bit. I tell you what, you live quite close to the M6. You know what transport's like in the northwest. You know, if you wanted to go right now to Leeds, Mike, how long would it take?
By road?
Yeah.
An hour.
I tell you what.
Because I've travelled over to York and Scarborough.
I can't encourage law breaking, but I tell you what, if you leave now and you get to Leeds in an hour, I'll buy you a very, very large drink, I promise. Mike, thank you very much indeed for the call. Mike, all for infrastructure. I'm all for infrastructure. We need infrastructure. Our roads don't work. Some of our railways, like the one to the southwest, are just hopelessly outdated. I just don't believe embarking on a bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland that will cost goodness knows what, and I can't see what benefit it brings. I think it's absolutely stone bonkers. This is the Nigel Farage Show. It is 6:30. Time for the news with Holly Jones.
It's been confirmed 2 of the 4 people newly diagnosed with the coronavirus in the UK are healthcare workers. 8 patients are now being treated in England for the illness, with 5 of those closely linked to a businessman who was told he had it in Brighton last week. A former Uber driver has been convicted of planning a gun, knife and van attacks at tourist hotspots in London. 28-year-old Musa Chowdhury from Luton exposed his own plans, talking to undercover police officers posing as fellow extremists. Campaigners fighting to stop the deportation of 50 people to Jamaica have lost their case at the High Court. The government's plans to forcibly remove foreign nationals with a criminal past will go ahead tomorrow morning unless a last-minute appeal is successful. LBC weather, windy, chilly and more blustery showers tonight. Rain, hail and snow for more northern and western parts. A low of 1 degree.
LBC and its sister stations from Global come together to bring you...
And the winner is...
the Global Awards 2020 with very.co.uk.
Show your appreciation for LBC's Mr. Steve Allen.
With huge performances on the night from the Stereophonics, Alan Jones, Ellie Goulding and Russell Watson. See all the nominees and vote now. Download Global Player app. or vote online at lbc.co.uk. You can be there. Tickets are on sale now. Thursday, the 5th of March, London's Hammersmith Eventim Apollo, the Global Awards 2020.
With very.co.uk.
LBC.
Could the owner of a Santorini black all-electric Jaguar I-Pace, winner of World Car of the Year, World Green Car of the Year, World Car Design of the Year, and 68 other industry awards, parked in South Terminal Long Stay, Area G, please give yourself a big pat on the back. That's a stunning car.
The all-electric Jaguar I-Pace. Electric never looked so good. Search Jaguar I-Pace.
Ah! GCSEs, A-levels.
For exam success without the stress, only one name stands out. Justin Craig. A Justin Craig Easter course kickstarts revision, consolidates knowledge, boosts confidence and improves exam technique. With over 30 years experience, Justin Craig has helped more than 100,000 students secure their university place. For Easter revision course details, visit justincraig.ac.uk. Justin Craig. Just in time.
Little Red Riding Hood has been trying to sell her grandma's home for some time now, but the estate agent's shiny, sharp teeth have left her with sweat on her brow.
Trust me, darling, I just want what's best for you, hence the added fees.
However, she spoke to the friendly team at Property Rescue, who cut out the middleman and guaranteed a sale in as little as 48 hours with no fees whatsoever. Fast forward to living happily ever after. Visit propertyrescue.co.uk. Property Rescue. Fast forward to sold.
You know it'll happen. That dodgy boiler will finally pack up, and it'll do it on the coldest day of the year. So the moment you decide you can't put it off any longer, get a quote from British Gas. You can spread the cost of a new boiler interest-free over 2 years and get £200 off when you get a quote by the 29th of February, or £400 off for existing home care customers. British Gas, here to solve. Search British Gas new boiler. Conditions apply.
You're listening to the sound of a Halifax customer who used to worry she wasn't saving enough, but is now saving the change every time she runs out of milk. Switch on Save the Change, and when you use your Halifax Visa debit card, we'll round up to the nearest pound and put the difference into your chosen Halifax savings account.
At Ring, we've reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about. Ring Video Doorbell streams HD video and two-way talk straight to your phone, so you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Could you leave it with my neighbour, please?
Sure, no problem.
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, hear and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com and selected retailers.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
Before we get back to Boris talking about the biggest infrastructure revolution since the Victorians, and I'm talking HS2 and a bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland, we must talk about coronavirus and the fact that the government today said that it is a serious and imminent threat. The government have now taken additional powers to forcibly quarantine people if they have to. We've got coronavirus. A GP surgery in Brighton has been closed, and the latest news in the last half an hour or so is that British Airways are cancelling flights into the country from Beijing and from Shanghai. And I begin to wonder, why now? Why was it not done earlier? Well, to help me with all of this is Professor Jonathan Ball, Professor of Virology at the University of Nottingham. Professor Ball, good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
So some will say, if the government now tells us that this is a serious and imminent threat, why on earth have these flights been going on until today?
Yeah, I think in terms of the threat level, they've specifically said it's mainly to ensure that they've got the legal powers to ensure that people are isolated or quarantined if they feel that they need to be, if they've had a risk of infection. So at the moment, we've got 8 cases, and all of those can be traced back to a single traveller from Singapore, a businessman who went there for a meeting and stopped off at France and then ended up in Sussex.
Yes.
So at the moment, the threat is still low, but I think you've hit on a very pertinent point in terms of our reliance on international travel. And, particularly places like China, where business deals are done, people like to meet face-to-face. And, of course, that brings a threat with it.
No, of course it does. But I'm very interested, Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, is saying that the government now has the power to forcibly quarantine people. I mean, this is pretty unusual stuff for the UK, isn't it?
It is. I can't think of a time when that was probably announced.
No.
No, but of course they've always had powers to ensure that people don't spread infectious diseases. For example, tuberculosis, that's not gone away, and that's a serious threat. And so this kind of surveillance and isolation of people does happen anyway. So I think as much it might even be an attempt to reassure the general public that the government and the NHS and the Department of Health, Public Health England, all of these bodies are actually aware of the potential threat and are on top of it and have got things in place.
Yeah, I mean, of course, what they don't want is the bad PR of someone saying, I don't want to go, being seen to be chucked into the back of an ambulance, I suppose. But if you do quarantine someone, I mean, how long is the incubation period? I mean, how long would they be quarantined for?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we don't know sufficient about how this virus is behaving at the moment to put an exact measure on that. So we think, on average, it's between 2 and 5 days, but the extremes were reported to be about 14 days. Now, I've heard reports today that there's some Chinese scientists claiming that in very, very rare cases, it might be as many as 28 days, but nobody's yet seen the data for that, and so we can't pass judgment as to how robust it is.
And give us, please, finally, a sense of perspective. We do, not every winter, but some winters we get pretty serious outbreaks of flu, and I'm told they can kill up to 4,000 people in this country. I mean, how does this, at the moment, compare to an outbreak of winter flu?
It's again, and I'm doing a lot of fence sitting.
I know.
From a scientist, but in China, we know that of the cases that have been identified, the death rate is between sort of 1% and 2%, which is quite significant. 1 or 2 out of every 100 people is not nothing to be sniffed at, and there's no pun intended there. No. But I think the number of cases is probably massively underestimated in China, and that's why we can't get a good handle on it. But I think any new virus infection that sweeps around the world will have a huge impact on health infrastructures, whether they're incredibly well developed or whether they're creaking at the seams. And I think that's the reality, which is why we need China to get on top of the problem there, but also to ensure that any other country, wherever coronavirus infection rears its head, and it will because of the interconnectedness, they manage to get on top of it. So, of course, the real worry in all of this are those places around the world that have poor investment in health and don't have very good surveillance, because that's where the virus could really potentially take hold and threaten us in future.
No, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. That was Professor Jonathan Ball, Professor of Virology at the University of Nottingham. And it is, quite something, isn't it? The government now have the power to forcibly quarantine people. That means they can be quarantined against their will. And I hate Big Brother. I hate the big state. But I kind of guess in a situation like this, maybe they need to have that power. Not that I like it. Back to Boris and bridges. Something he seems to be terribly keen on. Boris, HS2, Boris, Freeports, which I have no problem with. Do you think Boris has got this right? And on Twitter I get, before we start building bridges from Scotland to Ireland, could we please get Hammersmith Bridge reopened? And I'm sure there are many other people would agree with local problems. Leslie makes a very good point. She says, it's bound to have a toll on it, and that'll be never-ending like the Dartford Bridge, which was supposed to pay for itself. Leslie, I launched a campaign back in 2000 over the Dartford tolls because the 1968 Act of Parliament said that once it had paid for itself and there was reserve, the tolls would end. And I challenged them and challenged them and challenged them, and in the end they abolished the tolls. They did. They replaced them with something called road charges to get round the legislation, the so-and-sos. And now it's automatic as you go through. And if you're busy or haven't pre-registered and you don't send the money by midnight, they'll charge you hundreds of pounds. What a swizz. Jenny is a new caller from Beverley in Yorkshire. Jenny, I bet you're looking forward to a bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland improving your life.
I just cannot wait. I initially trusted the Prime Minister to do his manifesto suggested, unleashing the potential of every corner of the UK.
Yes.
Yet this just seems to be another Prime Minister directing high-tech infrastructure, such as HS2, concentrated in London, and the bridge that nobody asked for between Northern Ireland and Scotland, also Huawei.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like this Prime Minister's going slightly rogue.
There are some odd things that, and certainly Huawei's the one that bothers me more than anything, because I'm fearful that it will knock on the head a trade deal with the USA and could actually kill off the Five Eyes intelligence sharing service. So I'm really worried about that. But Jenny, you live on the A1 there in Beverley. I mean, what have you got to complain about? You must have great infrastructure in Yorkshire.
What an absolute jerk, Nigel. It's an absolute jerk.
I know. I was just trying to wind you up as much as I mean, it's shocking, isn't it, travelling around Yorkshire?
Absolutely shocking. I mean, there's no way to get around after 11 p.m. Buses, trains, any means of public transport after 11 p.m. There's just no way to get around. Also, not only that, there's no direct route into it. Well, basically, from Beverley to London, it takes hours upon hours upon hours, and I'm sick to death of it all being concentrated in London and the rest of the country being ignored.
That was the argument. That was the argument, Jenny, that I pushed at the European elections of last year, and it was very, very successful. So successful that Boris copied it almost word for word, and now he wants to build a bridge and continue with HS2. Jenny, I think there are many people listening right now who live in parts of the country like you who will share that frustration. I really believe it. Jenny, thank you. If you live in Yorkshire and you're delighted with these projects, you tell me why on 0345 6060 973. If Boris does build a road bridge, let's hope it's not a smart bridge without a hard shoulder, says Alan in Essex. And we did talk about smart motorways yesterday morning, and it was very difficult to find anyone who thought they were a good idea. Nigel, I sell caravans. We need roads, says Leah in Stafford. Don't tell. I mean, it must be quite difficult, Leah, meeting socially, talking to car drivers and saying you sell caravans, because they do drive people ever so slightly mad. At least they do on single carriageway roads. Christopher is new to the show from Castledown in Northern Ireland. Christopher, good evening.
Hello, Nigel. Thank you for taking my call.
So, is this going to transform the Northern Irish economy?
Well, I think actually it will. I know there's a lot of issues going to be involved, whether a road bridge or possibly even a tunnel or anything to get across the North Sea, which is very windy and stormy. But one reason I want to put forward that I haven't heard put forward yet is I live here, in Northern Ireland. If I want to get to the rest of the UK with my car, I have to obviously take a ferry there and back. Now, a return visit on that ferry with a car costs about £300.
Oh.
Now, that's a sum of money which is not free.
£300?
£300 for a return ticket with your car. So that is not a reasonable amount of money for people to be paying on a regular basis.
Well, surely
it's
better than to be a foot passenger and hire a car.
Yeah, it is. But there's a limited hire options, as you'll understand, in Stranraer, Carnarvon. There aren't big settlements. The other thing I'll say is, in a time when everybody's talking about the green environment and cutting down carbon emissions and all that, if I want to go to Liverpool or Glasgow even, which is quite close to Stranraer, it is 3 times cheaper for me, or sometimes 4 times cheaper for me to get a flight from Belfast there and back rather than taking the low carbon option of the ferry, because it's prohibitively expensive. I think if it was a real tunnel or a road bridge, it would really transform our ability as people of the United Kingdom to visit the rest of the United Kingdom and vice versa.
Do you think more trade would go to Scotland or to Northern Ireland if that bridge was built?
I think Northern Ireland would end up just being actually a bypass, a through route. I think trade from the Republic of Ireland and Scotland would probably flourish.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what?
The benefits of that.
I was thinking this. Actually, Dublin would benefit more than anybody else. I think that's absolutely right. So maybe they should build it. I don't know. Christopher, don't worry. It is never going to happen. Even if we proceed with it, we'll stop it very quickly because it just ain't going to work. I'm certain of it. This is the Nigel Farage Show. It is now 6:46 and time for the news headlines with Holly Jones.
2 healthcare workers are among 4 new cases of the coronavirus in the UK, bringing the total number to 8. A former Uber driver who was cleared of a sword attack on police outside Buckingham Palace has been found guilty of plotting a terror attack on tourist hotspots in central London. Snow and ice is causing problems for commuters across some parts of the UK a day after destruction caused by Storm Kira. LBC weather, windy, chilly and more blustery showers tonight. Rain, hail and snow for more northern and western parts. A low of 1 degree.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are delays on the M11 southbound. All traffic's being held because a car's on fire at junction 7 for Harlow. It means there are also queues going past northbound. There were delays on the M25 anti-clockwise after an accident earlier at junction 20 for Kings Langley. On the M23 northbound, a car's broken down in the roadworks before the M25, so there are queues on the approach. On the North Circular Road eastbound, it's very slow from Palmer's Green to Chingford after an accident earlier on. Onto the trains, because of a tree on the line, Greater Anglia are running a severely reduced service between Liverpool Street and Harlow Town. That's also affecting the Stansted Express. And London Overground, they have severe delays between Richmond and Stratford and also between Willesden Junction and Clapham Junction.
Coming up at 7, Ian Dale leading Britain's conversation. Next on LBC.
Heroes. They're the ones we turn to in our darkest hour. Like when you blow a fuse and the lights go off. From electrics to heating, plumbing to plastering, at Local Heroes, every job completed by an expert tradesperson comes with a 12-month British Gas guarantee when you pay online. So if it needs fixing, there's a Local Hero for that. To get a quote, search Local Heroes. Terms and conditions apply.
At Ring, we've reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about. Ring Video Doorbell streams HD video and two-way talk straight to your phone, so you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Could you leave it with my neighbour, please?
Sure, no problem.
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, hear and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com and selected retailers.
You know it'll happen. That dodgy boiler will finally pack up. And it'll do it on the coldest day of the year. So the moment you decide you can't put it off any longer, get a quote from British Gas. You can spread the cost of a new boiler interest-free over 2 years and get £200 off when you get a quote by the 29th of February or £400 off for existing home care customers. British Gas, here to solve. Search British Gas new boiler. Conditions apply.
You know what it's like when you can't find your debit card? Panic. That's what it's like. Until you realise, as a Halifax Visa debit card holder, that you can freeze your card on the spot. Control your Halifax Visa debit card with the Halifax mobile app. Easy as.
You can only freeze certain transaction types. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm Peter Jones. Lifting business performance is critical in today's uncertain times. But how do you keep up with changing regulations and rising demands? How do you break free from manual processes to raise productivity? The answer is technology that elevates performance and comes with industry-leading support. Over 1 million UK businesses, including my investment group, trust Sage to manage their finances, operations and people.
Elevate your business today with our free performance review. Visit sage.com/perform.
How do you make the most understated Range Rover even more striking? Paint it Santorini black. Fit it with privacy glass. A full leather ebony interior. Then place it on 21-inch gloss black alloy wheels. The Range Rover Velar R Dynamic Black. Understated has rarely been so bold. Limited numbers available for a limited price. Search Range Rover Velar. Land Rover. Above and beyond.
Limited availability while stocks last at participating UK Land Rover retailers. Check with your local retailer.
What matters most to you? Saving money or helping the environment? With Evergreen Power, you can do both. Insulating your home with soft spray foam insulation will keep the heat in your home this winter like never before with its air barrier seal. Reducing airborne noise, condensation, damp and mould, your loft will be transformed into a dry, usable space while cutting your heating bills and carbon footprint, so helping the planet. For a free survey, search Evergreen Power.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Before we get back to Boris, and he's talking about, tomorrow, the biggest infrastructure revolution since the Victorians, which I'm all for. That, to me, sounds absolutely fantastic, because so many parts of our country desperately need it. And it's not just road and rail, it's actually, mobile phone connectivity, broadband, and all of those things. I absolutely agree. But I think HS2 and a potential bridge from Scotland to Northern Ireland are bonkers and will benefit very, very few people. Before I get back to that, I did mention yesterday, for those that listened, I was very privileged on Thursday, just after the impeachment process had ended, to be able to go into the Oval Office in the White House and to meet President Trump. And you can imagine he'd had a pretty good week last week, a State of the Union speech that was seen to have gone very well. The Democrats in absolute chaos over the Iowa caucus mess up, and of course the end of the impeachment process. And, front pages of newspapers saying acquitted, and he was pleased. So I said we exchanged gifts. I gave him one of the 4,300 50p coins that had been minted at the Royal Mint on the 31st of January, and quite nicely done, a little cardboard presentation. So he'd been a Brexit fan, and even though I did rather like the fact that I own one of these, I gave him that, and in return he gave me something that is not really out yet. It's the Trump campaign hat for 2020. As he said to me, these are hot right at the moment, and it's got the slogan for this campaign, which will be Keep America Great. Remember, the last one was Make America Great Again. It's Keep America Great. So thank you. I'm very pleased with it. And he handed it to me personally. Silly me. Should have got him to sign it, really, shouldn't I? But hey, back to Boris, back to bridges. And some of you think that maybe it will bring economic benefits to Scotland and Northern Ireland. Others think it's a great symbol of the United Kingdom. I rather cynically think it'll cost a fortune, but potentially be very, very good for the Republic of Ireland. Andy is a new caller from Maidstone in Kent. Good evening, Andy.
Good evening, Nigel. First time on here, first time talking to you, so thanks for taking the call.
Well, welcome. So what do you make? I mean, when you hear a Prime Minister tomorrow unveiling the biggest infrastructure revolution since the Victorians, it does sound quite exciting, doesn't it?
It sounds very exciting. I actually work for a manufacturer in the construction industry, so it all sounds exciting to me. But the problem I've got, Nigel, isn't so much with HS2, it's more with the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Now, you're a lot more political than I am, so you can tell me if I'm totally off the mark here. But when we leave the European Union, the transition period's over, there'll be custom checks, won't there, along the Irish Sea? This bridge, does that mean that you've got goods going into Ireland and going into Scotland, that there'll be customs checks there as well?
Well, let's see where we finish up with on this, Andy. But at the moment, on the so-called deal, the withdrawal agreement, there is the potential for customs checks. Now, when Boris is asked about this, he always says there won't be any. And then when other ministers are asked, they say, yes, there will be some. The likelihood, Andy, is even outside of the EU's rule book, the number of goods that get checked would be absolutely minuscule in percentage. But yes, there would be potential, and clearly not in the middle of the bridge, but there would be potential either side for checks, yes.
So how do you sell that to the Conservative Party then?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think the truth of it is that when the withdrawal agreement went through Parliament, there was so much Brexhaustion in the air that people just did not want to look at the detail. But there is potentially with the deal a real problem with one part of the United Kingdom being treated differently from another. Maybe Boris thinks his bridge, even with the odd check at either end, maybe he thinks that solves the problem.
Maybe. Who knows, Nigel? Who knows?
Well, none of us do. But on balance, Andy, HS2 you feel relatively in favour of, yeah?
Well, I mean, I was a big advocate of Truss rail, even though the added costs and everything, because for the company, it did us very well.
Yes.
I think the costs are absolutely ridiculous, and I think they'll go even higher than the 108 billion.
Don't depress all. Don't depress all the listeners. Oh, and talking of Crossrail, how many years late is that now? I mean, this is. Yeah, it's not good, is it? It's not good. Now, I get the point. And Andy, I do get the other point, that if we are going to do big infrastructure projects, let's use UK manufacturers absolutely, and being outside the EU's procurement rules makes that simpler. Thank you. Going to Jonathan in Plymouth, who's a new caller to the show. Jonathan, good evening.
Hello, Nigel. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Can I ask, when you come to Plymouth, can I buy you a drink? Because it'd be an absolute dream of mine.
Yeah, there's a couple of really good pubs down on the Hoe there, used by the fishermen, and on a windy day when they can't go to sea, it's quite fun down there. Trouble is, Jonathan, if I want to come to you by train, it takes 3.5 hours to get to Plymouth.
Yeah, but you go past Dawlish. It's very nice.
Very nice. Yeah. I bet that was closed yesterday with the storms.
Well, it might have been. But
I mean, Jonathan, my point is this: that HS2 Bridges from Scotland to Northern Ireland, massive infrastructure projects costing vast amounts of money. We could spend a fraction of that and improve connectivity with Plymouth.
Well, you could. Well, we already have the Tamar Bridge, the Royal Albert Bridge, but I don't know what a bridge for Northern Ireland and Scotland would do. But on HS2,
yes.
Well, now you might not like this. To begin with, I was dead against it, but I can't see, with the way the railways are going, how if we invested into our railways, with it being a Victorian infrastructure, and bear in mind, I'm a very big railway enthusiast, always have been bonkers about railways.
Okay.
I'm wondering how we can make our railways, it being Victorian and extending platforms, how we could make them fit for the 21st century.
I tell you what you could do, Jonathan. You could reverse pretty much the beaching cuts of the early middle 1960s with the amount of money it's costing to build one railway line.
Well, you could, and the thing is, beaching is very controversial, but without beaching you wouldn't have heritage railways. But the thing is with beaching is they did cut lines that didn't make money. And unfortunately, some of them did have to go, but he did go completely too far. And then there was Ernest Marples as well.
Yes.
And he was corrupt.
Jonathan, can I just try this argument on you one more time, right?
Yes.
I'm all for there being more rail travel in the United Kingdom. I'm all for the railway lines, such as the one I've mentioned 3 times tonight, going to the southwest, being a lot quicker than they are. I am arguing that the 106 billion, and there's no, because that'll go through the roof from here anyway. I'm arguing you could spend that money upgrading existing railway lines to benefit huge numbers of people, not just a few thousand wealthy commuters who will get to London more quickly.
Well, there is truth in that argument, and the price is going to go up and up and up. But the thing is, I'm wondering how much money will we have to put into trying to upgrade our already Victorian infrastructure?
Jonathan, I get that. I get all of that. All I'm saying is we could spend 106 billion better and have a lot more railways and new railways and reopen some old ones. That's my argument. Jonathan, thank you. Thank you to all of you. I'm back tomorrow at 6. At 10 tonight, it's going to be Ian Payne, but up next, it's Ian Dale.
Nigel, thank you very much. Coming up in the programme tonight, our Monday night panel is going to consider the coronavirus. How dangerous is the coronavirus to UK citizens, and are we prepared? It's going to be your chance to quiz health professionals and politicians on the virus and what is being done to prevent it spreading. It's also leading the news hour. We'll be talking also about the Brentwood sinkhole. Oh, yes, we will be. The Abedi trial. We'll talk about the Irish elections, where Sinn Féin look as if they might be the largest party. But can an Irish government be formed? Angela Merkel's successor has stepped down. I would tell you her name, but even I can't pronounce it, even though I speak German. And we'll have the latest on this deportation flight. The government insists it will take off tomorrow.